Hello and welcome back to Conquest Creations. I'm your host Jacob, and in all my videos I always talk about how Middle-earth is a game of skill and it's not just about the army that you choose. Well, Ardacon was just last weekend. For those of you who don't know, Ardacon is the biggest Middle-earth strategy battle game tournament in the whole world. Players travel from all across the globe, including Australia and the US, to the UK to battle it out for the title of World Champion. This year there were 147 players playing in the singles tournament. That is a lot of SBG. In this video, we're going to go through the winning army list to see what armies the world's best players use to win their games. Now, Articon goes over 4 days, so there are several events happening. There's the Masters tournament, where the best players from each country, determined by who won that country's biggest tournament for the year, are invited to battle it out in a Masters series. There's also the main event, which is the 2-day singles tournament, which is 650 points. There's also a doubles tournament, a last chance tournament to get into the Masters, and a single day doubles tournament as well. In this video, we're going to be going through the top 3 lists from the doubles tournament, from the Masters tournament, and from the singles. If you want to see all of the army lists in full from every single player in Articon, you can find them at Tourney. It's in the link in the description down below. And third place for the doubles tournament goes to Eric Reg and Lig 94. They played a combination of the fell beings of Mirkwood. So the army was led by Razgush, one of the newest characters into the game. And in his side of the army, he's got a bat swarm, a fell warg, orc drummer, tracker, smattering of orcs, and then he's also got an orc captain with a smattering of some other orcs. And then the other side of the army list is led by the Spider Queen. No surprise seeing her high up in a tournament. She's definitely one of the most powerful units out there, and I think it was 2019, came first place at Articon. And with the Spider Queen, we've also got a few fell wargs, a Mirkwood spider, absolutely brutal, another bat swarm, some orcs, an orc captain on a warg, and some more orcs. Now, this army list looks really, really solid. It's playing one of the new legendary legions. It's anchored by 2 solid heroes, and importantly, because this is doubles, each side of the army has a solid hero in Razgush and the Spider Queen. The Spider Queen really is the key unit here. She can move so fast and hit so hard, but she is only defense 4, so she's very easy to take down. I'm not surprised at all to see bat swarms in this army list. If you've seen my top 10 troops in Middle-earth, you'll know that bat swarms are my personal pick for the best unit in Middle-earth. When they fly into base contact with you, if they're fighting you, they halve your fight value rounding down, which means that a fight 3 orc could potentially outfight a normal elf or a captain who's fight 5. So they're really, really powerful. This army has a little bit of everything. You've got the big heroes, you've got the high numbers from the orcs, you've got the very high movement from having the orc drummer, as well as the fell wargs and bat swarms, and you've got a lot of tech from the bat swarms and a little bit of shooting. It can really do it all, and I'm not surprised to see this one really high up. Not to say it's an easy army at all to use, but a good player can definitely do a lot of damage with it. Now, our next army is being played by LOTR Craft Paint and Fantush. It is a combination of Erebor Reclaimed and the Thranduil's Halls. So this is resembling the Battle of 5 Armies. Now, it's led by Thorin Oakenshield, King under the Mountain, on a Wargoat. No Orcrist on him. That's really interesting. I definitely would have taken Orcrist, but hey, this obviously works without it, right? We've also got some Iron Hill Dwarfs with spears, crossbows, and a banner. So a relatively stock standard warband of Iron Hills there with some solid shooting power. Now, in the Thranduil's Halls army, we have Thranduil with an additional Elven-made sword and heavy armor. No Circlet of Kings, which is really interesting, keeping Thranduil budget. Circlet of Kings is amazingly powerful, giving you an auto-cast Terrifying Aura, I think it's Terrifying Aura, Aura of Dismay, that's the one, and a Nature's Wrath, so very surprised not to see it there. And then he's got a relatively stock standard warband as well. He's got some Mirkwood Elves with shield, some with glaives and bows, 3 Palace Guard, they're very good, and 1 Merkle Cavalry. Now, I think that single Merkle Cavalry really is a sleeper here. It adds so much to the army to have a Courage 5 fast-moving model that can sneak off to objectives at the end of the game. And Thranduil being on foot is a really great choice. A lot of people putting on the Elk because it's such a cool model, or on the horse because everyone thinks that heroes on horses are better. But while he's on foot, he gets Blade Lord, meaning that every model that he's fighting after the first can give him an additional attack, meaning you really can't swarm him. Makes him very powerful. Again, not a super easy army list to use, but Thorin Oakenshield, King Under the Mountain, gets that free heroic combat every single turn. So this army has a lot of hitting power. Decent numbers, definitely on the lower side, but that's compensated for by having the super high defense dwarves and the super high fight and courage elves and some bodyguard in there with the palace guard. Those also get fight 6, those palace guard. Overall, very solid army, and definitely with some good pilots, understand why this is the very top. Now, the next army list, this is first place for the doubles, comes from a player who's put his name down as Skeeter, but I know him as Henry Kerr. And if you've been watching the channel for a little while, you've seen him here as well. That's right, Henry from Australia traveled across the world and came first place in the World Championship doubles. That is an amazing effort. He's also playing in the Conquest Champions League, so you're going to see how this world champion goes in the rest of the tournament as those videos come out. Along with Henry was a player who's just put his name in as M. Now, they were playing Easterlings. This is a contentious one because they just came out and people have been saying how good the Easterlings are. So Henry was taking Rutabi, General of the Dragon Legion, with some Easterling warriors with pike and shields and some with shields, so a relatively standard warband there. And the second warband was a Dragon Knight with some cataphracts and then some black dragons with pikes and shields. So that on its own is a very solid 350 point force. And the Dragon Emperor of Rune makes up the second side. This guy is super good. He's on a big 80 mil base, and he's got 11 black dragons with pike and shield, 1 black dragon cataphract with a drum, 2 more cataphracts, and some black dragons just with shield. So a massive warband, 350 point warband there. Now, there's a lot of buffs that you get from the Dragon Emperor. He gives all your black dragons fight 5, which is absolutely incredible. He's also a 12-inch banner. So no surprise to see a big unit like that doing really, really well. When he's come out, a lot of people have said that maybe he's a little bit too overpowered. I disagree with those people, but he is at the top of the World Championship for doubles, so he is pretty good. Easterlings went through a phase where a lot of people thought they weren't very good, and I think this shows that that phase is well and truly over. Now everyone sees them as a top tier army. I'm just going to quickly interrupt to tell you about the Kingdom of Saxonia terrain line. This terrain is currently live on Kickstarter, and if you're watching this in a few weeks' time, it'll be live on my website and on my mini factory. These come as STL files that you can 3D print yourself at home, and there'll also be some merchants selling physical pieces. This has been sculpted by myself as well as 2 other sculptors here at Conquest Creations, and if you like the channel, this is the best way to help us out. And let's get back to the video. That's all the doubles armies, so now let's look at the Ardacon Invitational Masters top 3 army lists. The Invitational Masters was 650 points, and third place went to Ali King. Ali King was playing Theodred's Guard. Absolutely awesome. His leader was obviously Theodred on horse with a shield. He's got some Outriders, some Warriors of Rohan, some Helmingers, which are Warriors of Rohan with an upgrade from Grimbold that give them strength 4. He's also got a banner in that warband and some Royal Guard on foot with throwing spears. Now this legion gives all of your throwing spears the normal spear rules as well as a Royal Guard on horse. And then he's got Elf Helm with some more Helmingers, some more Royal Guard, another Royal Guard on horse, and some more Outriders. And finally, we knew he was coming because there's Helmingers. We've got Grimbold with some more Helmingers, some more Royal Guard, and some more Outriders. So 3 very similar warbands. Now this is definitely one of those army lists that I don't think that anyone rates as top tier. Don't get me wrong, it's very good, but mainly it's a really, really cool theme. This is a Legendary Legion, and everything in the Legendary Legion, or every model, I apologize, gets immune to courage, so they auto-pass all courage tests while Theodred is alive. Theodred also has the rule where he must charge, so keeping Theodred alive isn't that easy, and it really underpins a lot of the army. Another rule is that every model in this army who has a throwing spear can use it as a normal spear. Now, Rohan is very, very strong, and this is a different type of Rohan, because this is mainly foot Rohan. Even Elfhelm is just running around on foot, so a different playing style, but I'm guessing that there was a lot of kiting going on with this army, because almost every single model has a throwing spear. Throwing spears, super powerful, that 8-inch range, strength 3 hit, which basically means if you are 8 inches away from them and you manage to roll a 4 to hit, that's equal to you winning the fight and taking a strike, but this way there was no risk to yourself. So this is not an easy one to play, but you can get very good results if you're a good player. Let's go into second place, and if you've been following the Middle Earth community for a little while now, second place is going to be a relatively familiar list. It's played by Evan Iverson, and he's got the Witch King of Angmar with the Crown of Morgul on the horse with 3 might, 4 extra will, and 3 fate. He's also got a Deadmarsh Spectre, some Angmar orcs with spear, some with shield, a banner, a wild warg, and then another warrior with just 1 orc bow. Next up is Gullivar, the Terror of Arnor, with a very similar warband, 1 more Spectre and a scattering of orcs. And to finish it off, an orc captain with some Angmar orc warriors with spear and shield. Now, I say this is familiar because Kylie also played this in, I think it was 2019 Masters, and won it using the Witch King and Gullivar. So no surprise to see the Witch King and Gullivar really high up. The Witch King is one of those great units that no one really says is overpowered because he is so challenging to use properly. It's very, very easy just to get your Witch King out of position and get him killed. So, in the hands of a good player, he is absolutely exceptional. And Gullivar is in a similar boat. Gullivar doesn't have strike, and he's only defense 5. But if you can get him into an opponent and he gets the charge in and that opponent can't strike against him, you're gonna rip them to pieces. Now, I don't want to say that Evan copied Kylie's list at all, because that's not the case. It's quite different. It has a few less specters, and it doesn't have a barrow wight, which is a really key thing in Kylie's army. So it was just a different playing style, but some similar units, and no surprise to see it doing really, really well. All right. It's time for our number 1 Invitational Masters Army, 650 points. What do you reckon the best 650 point army you can think of is? And it's being played by SML Antonio. It's got one of the same units as the first one. It's led by the Witch King, but this time he's on a Fell Beast. He's got the same loadout with his Might, Will, Fate. He's got 3, 14, 3. And very surprisingly, the Witch King doesn't have the Crown of Morgul. I would have thought that was almost an auto take for everyone playing the Witch King. For 25 points, it gives him 2 extra attacks, making him attack 3, and it means that he can reroll a dice when he's casting a spell. The fact that Antonio doesn't have it here is really, really interesting. And the reason that I sound slightly different, and you can't see me while I'm saying this, is because I actually missed this when I was first going through it, because I had just assumed that everyone playing the Witch King takes the Morgul Crown. So it's really great that he's surprised me with this one, and he's still done exceptionally well with a very unconventional choice. Alright, next up he has a couple of Orc Trackers, some Warg Riders, some Morannon Orcs, and some normal Orcs. The next warband is Dalamir, so allying in to Umbar. But Dalamir's not taken his Corsairs, instead he's taken 14 Black Numenorians, and then the Mouth of Sauron to finish off the list with some more Morannons, mainly with Spear and Shield. Now, Dalamir is a really interesting inclusion here. Obviously, you can take Morgul Knights in regular Mordor, no worries. But Dalamir can historically ally in, so you don't lose anything by taking him, and he is a great tech unit. So I think the idea that Antonio had here was, instead of just taking another hero and then spreading the Numenorians out evenly, he'd take Dalamir and put all the Numenorians in that warband as a way to get Dalamir into the fight. And then not all of the Orcs, a lot of the Orcs have spears as well, so they can just be the back rank behind those Black Numenorians. Now, this list is interestingly only got 2 cavalry models, but they're Warg Riders. So you really want a couple cavalry models so you can run around and take objectives, but this list only has 2 low courage ones, so I'm surprised he didn't take a little bit more. But obviously it worked for him. And it's interesting seeing 2 Witch Kings at the top 2 in the International Masters armies. Alright. Let's jump into the singles tournament. Now, I think for a lot of people, this is the main event, and that's why I left it until last. So the singles tournament was 650 points, and to start off in 3rd place, we had the Lonely Ranger, and he was playing the Survivors of Lake Town. Now, this is an army that we have seen take out the top spot at Ardacon once before. So we're seeing it now again. He's got Bard the Bowman with horse and armor, and then a bunch of Lake Town militia, as well as Alfred the Counselor, and importantly, Sigrid and Tilda. Now this warband does a lot of things. Sigrid and Tilda can give Bard +1 fight and the ability to call a free heroic combat. But if you manage to kill them, which is very easy to do given that they're defense 3 and only have 1 wound and 1 fate, then Bard goes crazy and he must go and kill the model who killed them. So if you can kill them with an archer, Bard's in a lot of trouble. This warband also has Alfred the Counselor. Now Alfred is one of the most notorious units in this game. Basically at the start of the game, he can give 3 might points to any hero in this army, and we all know those might points are going to Bard. Now Bard really does hold this army together, not because there's 50 points spent on 2 support units for him, but also because he gives all of the Lake Town militia a banner effect. So he is really, really important, but he only comes in at fight 5 and defense 5, so he is still very snipeable. So the Lonely Ranger must have had to play him very, very carefully not to get him just knocked out really early. Now, the army also includes Gandalf the Grey on horse, a great inclusion. Gandalf the Grey is another unit that isn't easy to use, but if you use him right, he does miles and miles of work. And Gandalf's got just a horde of Lake Town militia, 12 more warriors with an even scattering of equipment, and then to finish it off, we've got a Lake Town militia captain with another 12-man warband with an even scattering of equipment. So this is a high model count army that really revolves around Bard doing his thing while Gandalf can shut down threats and provide blinding light. This army is still lacking something. I think if a brand new player picked this up, they would not be able to perform well with it at all, because you're dealing with a low fight army and you don't really have anything fast. You've only got 2 cavalry models. So to get to those objectives, you really need to plan it out well. Also, your courage is relatively low. So again, not an easy army to play, but if it's put in the right hands, it's absolutely lethal. And congratulations to the Lonely Ranger for coming 3rd. Now next up, in 2nd place, we've got an army that was notorious across Australia for a little while. This is Elrond, Master of Rivendell, and it's being played by J22. Importantly, not J Clare, but J22. It's Elrond, Master of Rivendell, and with him he has got, looks like 12 Rivendell Knights. One of them has a banner, and a few of them have had to leave their shields at home. That's not ideal. And then he's got Aragorn, Strider, on horse with armor, coming in at 175 points to round out this 650 point army. Wow. Now this army comes with 12 Elven Bows on horse. This is a super powerful army. You've also got Elrond with some foresight points, meaning that you can choose to lose priority sometimes, and some Wrath of Brunin. Again, I think this one's one of those armies that if you give it to a new player, they're gonna get stomped, but in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing, it really, really is difficult to stop. The key thing this army does is it kites around its opponents, so it avoids combat, softens them up with shooting, and then it's gonna have one big turn where everyone goes in and puts in as much damage as possible. Now, I briefly talked about foresight points before, but let me explain a little bit more. At the start of the game, Elrond rolls a d6, and that's how many points he gets. You can use these foresight points when you roll priority to modify your dice roll. So let's say you roll a 5 for priority, and I roll a 6. Well, I can bring my 6 down to a 5, so I even, and if you have priority last turn, that means that I'm still win, so I'll use another one, I'll go down to 4, and I can choose to lose priority. This ties in really well with Aragorn, who always gets a free point of might, so you can always call a free heroic move to try to get priority. So you've got a lot of priority control on an army that absolutely needs priority control, so it can stay away from its opponents while it's shooting, and it can go and get priority and charge in when it needs to, although it's going to be charging in on a turn that it's lost priority. So overall, hard to use, but in the hands of a good player, very hard to stop. All right, congratulations, Jay, for coming 2nd. And the last list. This is played by a legend of the game. It's J Clare's Lorien army. For those of you who don't know, J Clare has won this tournament more than anybody else, and he is actually the rules writer for this game. I think that there is no better person to write the rules than obviously the best player in the world. Jay has a complete understanding of the game. It's shown through his mastery at tournaments. So with him writing the rules, I think we're in very safe hands. And his army was the Lothlorien. Overall, if you ask people, I think Lothlorien goes in about middle tier. I think I made a video rating the factions, and it went about in the middle. And that's great that an unexpected army comes first. He's got his army led by Galadriel, and she's got some Galadriel warriors with shield, some with spear and shield, and then some Wood Elf warriors, which defense 3 but have an Elven cloak, one Galadrim court guard, and one Galadrim knight. And then in the second warband, he's got Celeborn with heavy armor, shield, and a sword, and a very similar warband. This one's almost the same, but it's got one Wood Elf Sentinel, and we've swapped out that knight for a warrior with a banner. So this is a really basic army, to be honest. You could get almost this army by buying the Galadriel and Celeborn pack and one box of Warriors of Galadrim. He's got a few other bits and pieces in there, but at its core, that's what this is. So this is a straightforward army. If I saw this put down on the table against me in a tournament, I wouldn't be that stressed, to be honest. But it just goes to show that this game isn't necessarily about the army list. I've said this about some other lists, but that single cavalry model is really, really great with elves. It's a Courage 5 model that can run around really fast and sit on an objective at the end of the game. Galadriel offers some awesome support magic, while Celeborn can hit pretty hard and put out a little bit of magic. Now there's only 2 guards of the Galadrim court, which are Fight 6 elves, and I was expecting a little bit more because that Fight 6 is really, really good at shutting down heroes. A hero like a Boromir or an Aragorn are also Fight 6, but if they're going up against an elf and they draw the combat, the elves have the advantage because they've got elven blades, meaning that on the roll of a 3, 4, 5, or 6, the elf will win that fight. This means that heroes are going to have to call heroic strikes if they want to win against just regular troops. And that's why I would have put a few more guards in, but hey, I don't think you should be listening to me because Jay's the one who won the tournament with it. Now, the Wood Elf Sentinel is a key unit here. They come in at 25 points and they have an ability where when they move, they can make a single enemy model take a courage test. If that enemy model fails the courage test, then you can move that model for your enemy. This is really important because it can pull models out of position and it can let you jump into them and call heroic combats, or it can expose weaker heroes that the heroes can then go in and kill. Now, there's a few Wood Elves in this army. As I was saying earlier, they've got the Elven cloaks and Jay's put bows on them. I think this was just a different way to flesh out his archers, and it means that he could keep them safe in battlefields on objectives and make them look like less of a threat. I wish I was there to see him play it because I'd be really interested to see what he actually did with them in the late game, whether they're running forwards to fight or if they were always just skirting around the side to get more objectives. Well, that's been it. The top 9 army lists in the whole entire world according to the World Championship Tournament. And massive shout out to all the organizers of this event. It's become an international sensation. Going there is definitely on my bucket list one day. And congratulations to all the winners. If you've enjoyed watching this video, then please subscribe. And until next time, have a good one.